Wow, Jessica, Danielle. This is some crazy updates to the story. Wow. Okay, let's go over this. I'm gonna do my morning chores while we're doing this.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica. I'm a stay-at-home mom to two kids, as some of you may know, and I've recently just dived into the world of commentary at the outset of this 8-passengers case. I am really enjoying doing all the deeper dives in regards to this case, so feel free to check out either one of my playlists if you want to watch more. And as most of you will know, deep dives take a lot of time, and that's why it's taken me a little bit longer to get that sort of content out. Unfortunately, when I do rush it, I make mistakes, like I did in the Becky Berry video. I include a screenshot from someone that was not involved in it whatsoever, and that is because when I'm doing my research, I'm taking screenshots like crazy. Like, I have hundreds of screenshots.
I don't know anything about that, but let's get to this story.
And I just accidentally selected that one, and that was completely, obviously not on purpose. And the reason why I pumped it out so fast is because another commentary channel was talking about diving into Becky, and I wanted to get my video out first because I had looked into Becky since the very beginning of this. So I'm human and I make mistakes, and I learned from that mistake that it doesn't matter. I don't have to be the first one to get anything out, because if I do, then the chance of making a mistake, especially a big one, is just not good. So I just don't want to do that. So if anybody has suggestions on people they want me to do a deep dive into, please comment below and I will consider doing that. With all that said, let's finally just hop into today's video. In this interview with the Daily Mail, it says that Ruby Frankie's husband, Kevin Frankie, has seen her just 4 times since they split last year, per Jodi Hildebrandt's involvement in their lives. So it says that Jodi commanded that Kevin cut off communication with most people and only talked to Ruby if she reached out. I know a lot of us sane and normal people wonder, how could a father be kept away from his kids for so long? Well, as we've learned from all the different many stories that have come out, Jodi is really convincing and can control people very easily.
If you've ever interacted with Jodi, you know how convincing she is. Like, I'm certain my mom was just like at her wit's end. She didn't know what to do. And Jodi was just like, don't worry, I have this. I'm a professional. I'm their aunt. So naturally I love them and I want the best for them. Also, the church recommends me. I know what I'm doing, which is ethically so inappropriate for a client to be living with their therapist. Like, that is so unbelievably unethical.
And as discussed in the 8-passenger snark Reddit thread, it says that Ruby and Jodi cut their immediate family off from their extended family by the fall of 2020. So being able to distance themselves from people, it was not an abnormal occurrence. For me, at least, the question still lied, how could a father be kept away from his children? Because that's different than just extended family. Well, I found this video on the Connections Classroom Facebook page, and it explains a lot. So just trigger warning, it is very sad. It's just Kevin's thoughts about not wanting to be alive anymore.
I mean, I just don't see how an adult can excuse away their depression as being the reason that they allowed their children to be abused. But, okay.
And it happened years ago. I don't know the exact timeline, other than he says it was a couple of years ago.
And I remember I got to the point where I was looking for any escape. Any. Did I think about killing myself? Absolutely. Absolutely. I would walk through it in my mind. I would think, oh, this is the solution. And the only thing that kept me from doing it was the thought of my wife and my children. The only thing. And it got to the point where in the middle of the night, one night, I woke my wife up and I said, you need to take me to the hospital.
It was on Mother's Day.
It was the Mother's Day.
It was Mother's Day.
I was after 10.
Yeah. Mm.
And I spent Mother's Day in an ER psych unit.
Do you see how Ruby immediately made it about her? It was Mother's Day. You created this chaos for me on Mother's Day. Right? It's all about you, Ruby, right?
Evaluated. And I'd like to say that was rock bottom, but rock bottom came weeks later.
So for me, this interview was just super sad. I feel really bad for Kevin just in regards to this. And I think it shows how she preyed on people who, she as in Jodi, preyed on people who were vulnerable. So obviously Kevin was a very vulnerable person. Like, look at the experience he had in his life, wanting to not be alive, and he only stayed alive for his kids. This also shows the dedication that he had to want to keep his family unit together, and we have no idea what it's like to be under Jodi's control. So while their parenting is not good, as in like cutting off Christmas, Chad sleeping on a beanbag chair for a year, that is all very terrible things. But it is vastly different, in my personal opinion, does not make a fact, but just my personal opinion, to tying somebody up and starving them. Okay, that is very different. So Kevin did not have a role in that. He had a role in the terrible parenting, but I think this goes back quite a bit. And also we have to think about their church. What was their church's involvement in this type of parenting and child rearing? So it's going to seem like my thoughts are all over the place, but I'm just trying to connect pieces and show you guys all the things that I have found to really substantiate just things. So it's just bear with me. I'm going to be hopping back and forth a lot between the article and then a bunch of other stuff. So here the article says, he lived in a townhouse near the family home, and a counselor from Connections stayed with him and supervised him. My initial thought process here is that it was probably Pam and Roy who were checking up on Kevin, because as we've come to learn, there's no information on the Connections website about who the members are besides Pam, Jodi, and Ruby. And obviously there's videos on the websites and stuff showing other members, like the people I've talked about, which are Paige and Johnny Hannah and Stephen and Becky Berry. However, when trying to piece together the Connections timeline, it seems like everything suddenly stopped in 2021. And then people have commented on my videos, and then I've just seen online that apparently they all quit in 2021, and found a Reddit post actually when I was trying to see, okay, when did they quit? Apparently a Reddit member reached out to Paige at some point, and she denounced Jodi and Connections and said people have to run from it or something. As of right now, I do not believe it. I do still believe these people are still heavily involved in Connections. The reason why I think that these people are still involved is like twofold, maybe even threefold, fourfold. I don't know. So the first one is that Jodi has a brand new business registered in 2021, which is Connections Mental Fitness Trainers LLC. So when they all stopped talking publicly about Connections Classroom, I think it was because of Connections Mental Fitness Trainers LLC, but who knows? Okay, now hopping back to the article, it says that a counselor from Connections stayed with him. So in my mind, you wouldn't have someone who's not an equal or greater than you watching your every move. I don't think Kevin would agree to that. Yes, he can be pushed around easily from Jodi, but come on, you're not going to want someone lower than you, especially this is MLM style. So my suspicion is that it was Paige and Johnny, or just Johnny, Hannah, checking in on Kevin, because at first, like I said, I thought it was Pam and Roy, but they lived too far to be checking in on him, you know what I mean? Maybe this person even lived with him. So why I think it could be Johnny and Paige who watched him is because I looked up townhouses in the area, and yes, I found ones near.
Yeah, this is so gross. This is so gross, you guys. Can you imagine? You totally lose your own personal freedom because of Jodi's plan of checking in on you. This is so crazy.
Near Johnny and Paige's house, but then I looked up properties that both Ruby and Kevin have owned in the past, and I found one that hadn't been sold, which means they still own it, allegedly. I don't even know if that's true, but it is a townhouse. Amazing, right? They bought it in 2011 from the LDS church, and it is close to the family home, just a short 10-minute drive, and then it is only 11 minutes from Paige and Johnny Hannah's house. And an interesting note of something, it's too coincidental to be coincidental in my mind, but I was looking up that Paige and Johnny Hannah bought a house in Texas in 2021, at the beginning of 2021, and they bought it in Victoria. I don't know, I'm not American, but it's just a specific city, right? And then the person who is registered to live at Kevin and Ruby's townhouse also owns property in that same city or town or whatever. That is weird, right? Now, there is a possibility that Kevin could be staying somewhere else, obviously. So now into our next article, where People has an exclusive interview with a private investigator that Ruby hired after that Change.org petition. This interview was extremely telling because it says that in June is when CPS had first showed up to the house, and everything was all good, but that didn't satisfy followers. So someone showed up to their house in the middle of the night, and then this is when Ruby called Kevin, because remember, Kevin wasn't living at the house, and then this is when they got the private investigator investigator involved because they felt like the police weren't doing enough. And the next calls that CPS responded to were concerned neighbors, and then when Sherry called, there is no mention of any phone calls made by Bonnie or Julie or Ellie or anybody else. But when they say that we did all that we could, we did the best that we could with the knowledge that we had, they are referring to Sherry. Sherry did everything that she could. Sherry did, okay? Not these people. And I know a lot of people want to defend the sisters. Bonnie is the one coming out with video after video after video demanding attention on this, on her family and whatever, probably because she's scared of what's going to come out or whatever it is. But in my personal...
Yeah, I just did a video on this too, that her video was very self-centered. It was very much about how this is affecting me personally and how I had to break the news to my kids and blah blah blah. She hasn't done shit. There is nothing that she has come out with to say that she actually was trying to help the children that were being abused. And she said that her kids were intertwined with Ruby's kids. So what the hell is going on in her family?
opinion, all of our opinions, those who are skeptical of the situation knew that Bonnie was not telling the truth. They did not do everything that they could. There is no mention here of Bonnie's calls. If there was calls, shouldn't they have been mentioned? Okay, sorry that I'm heated, but I am very heated when it comes to liars and attention seekers, okay? Right. Now, finally, on to the last person from that conference and who has been listed as a Connections member, clearly from being on the panel, and he spoke at other things, Mr. Mark Yagi and his wife, Liz.
Hi, brothers. My name's Mark Yagi. Connections is having a men's conference November 6th and 7th, and I'll be speaking at it.
A simple Google search will show you Mark Yagi's information, so just know I'm not digging so deep for him. I did dig a little bit deeper, you'll find out in a little bit, but it shows that Mark is the CFO, is the Chief Financial Officer for a supplement company. I did a ton of digging to try to find his wife, and I really can't find much of anything.
What's up with the vitamin people and the yoga instructors? Why are you all so crazy? Why are you all so crazy? You know, like, a lot of the anti-maskers, a lot of the anti-vaxxers, a lot of the insurrectionists, like, are, like, yoga instructors and shit. Why?
Is extremely private, so I will not be sharing any information about her other than she goes by the name Liz, and that's not her legal name. And going back to the beginning of this video, I really think that Mark could be one of the other people who checked in on Kevin, but when I check his home address, he lives kind of far away, so it doesn't really make sense. I wanted to just put that out there. So because of the family that Mark comes from and what his brother does for work, has been really questioning even more so the Mormon Church involvement in this, and if potentially his brother was somebody who was referring people to Jodi. Now, when looking into this part of this case, I really tried my best to learn about the Mormon hierarchy, but it's really hard to understand, honestly. And I'm very sleep deprived right now. It's really hard for my brain to absorb everything. So if anyone is Mormon and watching this, please correct anything I say in the comments. When trying to find the specifics and connect the dots with Jesse's story and Adam's story, I learned that there are a ton of Mormon churches. I've seen this before and wondered, why are there so many? And it is because they encourage you to attend the church in your ward. So your ward is like your neighborhood, for example. Again, I hope I'm correct here. I feel like I am.
I don't find that weird. Okay, like, there's Catholic churches all over the place. There's Jewish temples all over the place. There's, you know, like, religions put up, they raise money to build their churches. So I don't find that weird. That's not weird to me. Okay? So, yes, there's a lot of Mormon churches around my neck of the woods. That's not the problem here. It's the child abuse that is the problem here. It's the breaking up marriages, which is, it seems like, completely anti the goal of the church is to form unions so that they will reproduce and create more members of the church. So it doesn't make sense that you would have somebody like Jodi Hildebrand out there who's like, oh, no, 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 no. You have to break up from your husband. And you have to have a relationship with me instead, right? How did you let that happen for so many years? That she was breaking up marriages and then seducing the wives. I just don't even understand it. She was breaking up families, torturing children, and seducing the wives. That's what you want, the Mormon church? That the bishops that were recommending people to go see her? That's what you wanted? Wow.
But if I'm not, please correct me. Before giving any more information, I just wanted to show you that yes, this is in fact Mark's brother who I'm about to talk about. This is Jeremy Yagi. Here on the LDS website, it says that he is an elder, and an elder is above a bishop, if you're curious. And it gives his history, saying that he was a mission leader in Utah, Ogden. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's about an hour away from Lehi, which I've mentioned Lehi before, corroborating Jesse's story and Adam's story of where Jodi worked. It goes on to list many other roles in the church that Jeremy has had. So I can link this below if anyone is interested in reading up on his brother. So Mark's brother sits up pretty high within the LDS church. He is a 70, which sits above a bishop, and they are like one of the top leaders in the LDS church. You can read up on them, or if you know you're Mormon, you definitely know. Again, please correct me in the comments. But because of all this, it makes me really question more of their involvement in Jodi's life and in this case, because as we've learned from the other two stories that were shared on the Mormon Stories podcast, they had their hand in a lot of Jodi's life and in these cases. Just really wondering this. I don't know if anyone else has been wondering it, but this has been pretty crazy information that I've learned. And that is all I have for today's video. Thank you for being patient with me if you have. It's been like 5 days since I posted a video, but like I said, I'm extremely...
Well, thank you, Jessica. That was some really useful additional information. I mean, I don't know anything about the Mormon church, really, other than, I've had Mormon families growing up in my neighborhood when I was a kid, and they seemed really nice. They had the best sleepovers, they had great games and stuff. They always rent the best movies. I never had a problem with any of the Mormon families in my neighborhood. I think this is obviously an anomaly, right? But I think the Mormon church needs to deal with it, because if they're going to elevate people like Jodi Hildebrand, they need to be willing to make a statement and reject her when it comes out that she was abusing children. They got to say something. They got to say, we don't agree with these types of teachings. We don't agree with trying to split up marriages. We don't agree with abusing children. They need to say this, because that's what's on the line right now.